We're here. All right. I am having minor technical difficulties this morning, so bear with me just a little bit. Uh, so here we are. Welcome to Pour Over. Listen to that voice. Already got somebody here. I love it. I love that I've got somebody watching. I have a couple of topics I definitely want to talk about today, but I also would love it if you guys had questions. That always makes it a lot of fun. But before we do that, I have something I want to share, and I got to find it on here. And bear with me on this too, because I got to blow it up to its full screen. Okay, there we go. All right. So before I get started here, there was a movie 5 years ago that Molly and I are both in called For Profit. Uh, it is a faith-based movie, but it's more like Oh God, where it's like anybody can watch it. It's not heavy-handed. Uh, it's got people in it that actually didn't know that it was a faith-based movie. So it's not like one of those Kirk Cameron movies, right? Uh, which are, heavy-handed, or they are Hallmark light, if that can be a thing. This is actually really funny. It's won tons of awards. The reason I bring this up is I wanted to show you guys the trailer, and then I want to talk about it a little bit. So here we go. Did you blink? Did you miss me? I'm one of the councilmen. You'll see me in the council scenes. And then Molly is in this, and you can't miss her because she's the only kid. No, I know you think that's me in the background. That's not me. Oh, there I am. There I am. Look, I've got so much hair. I'm not actually showing you this because I'm in it. I don't really care. I'm showing you this for some marketing reasons that I want to talk about. Okay, we can stop sharing. There we go. Okay, so that is a movie that's coming out. We're having the red carpet event. There we go. You hear me now? We had some kind of technical glitch there. It's okay. And there was no sound from the video. Okay, that's good to know. Um, okay, so here's the deal on this movie. We were in the movie 5 years ago. Molly looks like a kid. I have more hair. Uh, we were cast as actors in it. There's a lot going on here. Okay. Uh, they got picked up. They've been winning all sorts of awards, both secular and faith based. They got picked up, so it's getting put into theaters, a regular theater run, like any movie, which is really cool. A lot of times, faith-based movies have trouble with that, but once again, this is more like an "Oh God," which was a huge hit, uh, and people didn't think of it like, "Oh, that's a faith-based movie." Yeah, because it had a certain quality, it had a good script, had John Denver and George Burns. This one has me. I mean, what more do you want? Uh, for like 20 seconds. Uh, so anyway, uh, They have the red carpet event that's going to happen in Elgin, which is really close to us here. It's where Chris's Blue Box Cafe is. Chris, my friend and podcast cohort, there's his Blue Box Cafe, who passed away a couple years ago. I still miss him terribly. They shot some of it in his cafe. You could actually see it in that trailer. They also, there we go. Chris was also in it. And he is an extra in it, but he plays the radio guy with Bert Bolesco, who was a more of a name in it. Bert's the DJ, and then Chris is like his engineer. So in the scenes with Bert, a lot of times you'll see Chris walking along with headphones and a microphone. So it's really cool. And then Alil, who is also from This Week in Geek and a number of our other shows, Nuff Said and everything else, he's in it as an extra as well. So if we had gotten Maeve in there, it technically would have been the Live at the Blue Box movie because everything is there except her. So pretty interesting. So anyway, they get the theatrical run. Mark reaches out to me and he says, "Hey, I know you're a marketing guy. You're in Chicago. Can you be my ground crew, my like ground manager for marketing?" Meaning they want me to figure out where to poster things, maybe make some connections with some churches and some other groups. So yeah, that's what I'm doing, and that's what I've been doing all week is trying to put all those pieces together. And it's really interesting because I have been autonomous for so long with so many aspects that doing this, I'm working with a studio and I'm working with a crew of people. So there's a PR person who that's all they do. There's a social media person who that's all they do. And getting to talk to them and work with them and know that like, oh, I don't have to go figure out every hashtag. I can say, hey, we need this, and then boom, they do it is fantastic. Even when I started Podcast Profs, which was supposed to be set up that way, where we had a crew, I still found that 90% of it was me. This show, 100% is me right now. And working with that crew, having some people, it made me really think as we're growing as entrepreneurs, as we're putting in more elements of what we do, it's really worth treating it as a business, like from the word go. Where can you add a certain amount of profit so you can have money to hire some people? You know, in the beginning, yeah, you can't afford very much for a social media person, but can you go to Fiverr? Can you go set up a gig where, you know what, I'm going to pay you guys $30. I need you to do my social media for the week, boom, or for the month. You know, that might be all you can afford, but you not having to do every element of it might make a big difference. Now, I'm cheap. So I shouldn't say that. I'm not cheap. I spend money. I don't care. But where I can do it, I try to do it. Now, that has not as much to do with money as you would think. It has more to do with the more I can do these things, the more I can learn about these things, the more I can be effective when I'm talking to people. So when I'm talking to this PR guy who is really way above me in PR, I can speak his language. He's looking at me going like, "Oh, these are great." Like I gave him a couple of higher profile news outlets that I'm friends with, gave him connections, gave him some podcasts they could interview on. He was like, "Oh my gosh." And I'm thinking, "Yeah, man, but you have the list. You know how to do all this. I'm just making these basic connections." But because I had the connections, because I knew how to speak the language, we now have this really good working relationship. And I guess that's what I'm saying to you. As entrepreneurs, look for those things, look at what you can do so that you can speak the language. When I was in college, uh, I took some web design classes. That wasn't part of what I was doing. There were no other business students at all in those classes. It was basically a bunch of, unlike marketing nerds, there were computer nerds. And the reason I took it is so that number one, in the beginning, I could design my own stuff. Number two, so I could speak the language. And I do. Am I as proficient as somebody who's a professional in that market? No, of course not. But can I talk to you about SEO and what's needed for it and understand the different elements? Absolutely. Oh, spoiler, I didn't learn that in school. The web design classes I took, terrible, terrible. That it was like if you were teaching, first graders how to do web design, that's about as advanced as it got, even though I was in a master's program. But that's how the world is. Uh, Technology and this new media thing is going by at such a blinding pace that by the time a college can react and add it to their curriculum, it's already well established and way past that. I ended up taking SEM Rush's certification program. It was 4 modules. Took Each one takes about an hour and a half if you do it in order in time, which is so hard to do. It's very complicated. But you know what? I walked out of it and I understand so much more. I was able to tell the web guy from the company I work with, I was able to talk to him about the SEO, and like he was like, "Whoa, wow, that we have to do that." I was like, "Yeah, this is what's missing." I was able to analyze it and give him suggestions, but nothing that stepped on toes. But I could speak his language. Okay, I've rambled a lot. I'm already deep in the coffee. Let me tell you. You can tell my TARDIS is fully uh, visible, which it does when it's hot. So, okay, I've got a couple of people watching. Jamie, welcome. I love that you're here. I think it's your first time watching this. I know you've watched me on video plenty of times, but this is the first time for Pour Over Marketing. The way this works is it's kind of an AMA. Otherwise, I just ramble about topics. Last week, nobody would interrupt me. I kept asking for questions, and everybody was like, no, I love what you're saying. So it sometimes turns into that. Other times, what I prefer is you guys ask questions and we talk about it. And if it's really pumping, people in the chat will answer questions as well. So don't be quiet. Be verbose. Ask questions. So let's start there. Since Jamie, I know you're here. I don't know who the other mystery person is. Jamie, did you have any questions? Look, I'm not going to pause for that long. I promise. So I am going to, as I do this, you're going to get all my other stuff on the screen. Sorry, it's hard to produce and do it at the same time. It just really is. So you're going to get not as clean an image as I'd like, but I will share some of the slides. I got to put it over the side. There we go. Oh, Chinto, hey, fantastic. And you're getting ready for work. I like those words too. If you guys have questions, interrupt me, but I guess I'm going to just go. So this week, I want to talk about making 10 out of 1. Spoiler, it's right here on the screen. So what do I mean by that? In this week's newsletter for Pour Over, which, by the way, I kept telling you guys in the beginning of me doing this that I was going to be doing these blogs and these newsletter things. And I was like, look, it's coming. Just give it a chance to happen. It did. It's there. I'm already a couple of postings deep in each one. There is no sign of stopping. In fact, the one has sparked my brain, and I have started writing a book. I'm about 4,000 words into it because of what I was writing in that newsletter. Not at the moment, but I am listening. Great, Jamie. Okay, so this week's Pour Over Marketing newsletter, which you can find on Substack, Pour Over Marketing, and Mic Drop. Mic Drop is specifically about podcasting. I've done 2 posts in the last 2 weeks. And then Pour Over Marketing, I've done 2 posts, and I'm about to drop a third. On Pour Over, the topic I did was 10 from 1. So here's the idea. A few years ago, when we had our network, the original version, SMG 1.0, there was one of the guys had recommended I start watching Gary Vaynerchuk. And Gary Vaynerchuk is one of those guys who has lots of good ideas, but then some of his stuff, it's like way out of touch. I like him, but I don't live by his stuff. I know some people do, and other people hate him. I don't think it's worth hating him. I think he's good. But he did this thing, which he got partially right, 10% right, from what I say, where he talked about making 100 pieces of content out of a single piece. So he was giving examples. He's like, I write a blog post and I take that blog post and how do I slice that pie into 100 pieces of content? So I don't have to create new content. I'm just slicing it up and putting it out there as 100 different pieces. So it's all this engagement and all this interest. He said the same thing about like a podcast or a video. And I got all gung ho and I introduced it to our podcasters. I wrote a thing like, hey, everybody, let's try this. Because what was happening, and I'll framework this in podcast because it's easy, but take this and do it whatever you're creating, if it's a video, if it's a blog post, if it's your newsletter, if it's a podcast, I think I said that already, if it's an advertising thing you're doing, okay? Take that one piece of content you've created, and he said you chop it into 100 things. So I got all gung ho. I told everybody, hey, do this, because what was happening is they would put out a podcast, they put out one episode, and then they would never say another word. Okay, that disappears. Nobody's paying attention. Then I had podcasters, a couple of them, that would say, no, no, no. I post like 2 or 3 times a week, but they're posting the exact same piece of content. Guess what? It can kind of work, but you're not going to get your engagement. You're not going to create that interest level that you need to if you're trying some different things that you put out there. I got all excited. I said, hey, everybody should do this. Nobody did. It's okay. I tried to. By the way, I didn't do it because I hit a stumbling block immediately. First, I sat down, I had my podcast. I was like, okay, got the audio out. So I need to create 100 pieces of content. He says, make a quote, do a a meme with a quote, do audiograms, do polls. And I was like, yeah, this all sounds great. And I sat down and I opened it up and I didn't know what to make. I was like, okay, make a meme with a quote. Then I started listening to the show and I went, yeah, this is great. But if I just put a quote out, is that going to do what I want it to do? I want people to listen to my show. And it wasn't connecting. Number one, it wasn't connecting because I didn't pre-think it. Number two, it wasn't connecting because making 100 different types of content off of one thing is really, really stupid hard. The other thing is Gary Vaynerchuk has a team. So he might have 10 people working in his various social media things. One is working Twitter, one is working Facebook, one is working Instagram, or maybe they share and they do 2 of them. But ultimately, he had a team doing this. When you have a team doing it, it's a lot easier to create 100 pieces of content, even though in hindsight, I think it's dumb to create that much. The reason I think it's dumb, there's a fine line between being annoying with too much and being interesting and getting engagement. This is something you need to ask yourself when you're doing your postings, when you're doing this type of stuff. Am I interesting? Will I get engagement off of it? Or am I just blasting it out into the world to try to get people's attention? We fall for that thing where they have to hear your name 100 times before people pay attention. So you think, wow, I put out this episode. It's all about this restaurant I love, and I'm talking all about it and interviewing the host or the owner. And wow, I want to get this word out there about this great podcast episode. So I know I've got to put it out 100 times in social media before anybody really pays attention. Well, that's not true. So it's taken me a while to boil it down, but I've come down to a basic. And anyone who has had sessions with me, coaching sessions, consulting sessions about their marketing has heard me say this. We want to go back to the most simple thing that you are going to succeed at. Okay? So you jump into the fray. You've got this amazing Patreon. You're doing all this cool stuff with it. We're not going to go into all that stuff. We can do that another time. But you're doing this really cool Patreon and you've got very few people following. And you're like, I got to get more people, right? So you blast out over and over and over and over and over because people got to hear it 100 times. They don't have to hear it 100 times in a week, right? What you got to do is make good, interesting content that they want to engage with, something that exhibits value to them or hits one of the buttons being, does it educate? Okay. Does it create engagement? Does it entertain? Okay. These are the things. Or is it just a straight up call to action? There's 4 things. When you do your content, ask yourself, is it going to one of these 4 things? Am I creating engagement? Am I giving a call to action? Am I making entertainment? What am I doing here? Right? They can do 2, they can do 3 of the things, but it has to be doing at least 1. If you're doing 100 pieces of content, I think you are muddying those waters because you're either being repetitive or if you're doing something different for each one, it's too much. It's too much. It's too much for you to do, and it's too much for them to take in. So I do this thing. It's taken a while to come up with this, but a basic thing that will trigger engagement is making 10 out of 1. So here, I'm going to pull up my blog because I want to actually give the examples of what I'm talking about. So on my post, uh, the one on Substack on pour over marketing, it's make 1 piece of content out of 10 is the name of the post. Got a big piece of pizza because guess what? We're slicing it into 10. I give 10 examples, and this is for a podcast. Here, let's address this. Jamie, when you have a team, it's easy, but a one-man band with commitments, it's hard to pull it all together. It really is, Jamie. And you know, because Jamie podcasted under Southgate Media Group, the original version, you know, I was doing it for multiple things. In fact, right now, as we're relaunching, I've got like 6 shows technically that are mine. And I'm trying to figure out how do I want to balance these. And I got to make sure I'm not just putting an episode out and letting it sit. I have to be creating content that's engaging for each of these things. And 1 piece of content won't do it. We had a show called Binge Worthy. It was done live at the Blue Box, and it was really cool. We would binge TV shows like all of us do, and then we would all like chat it out. And then in my social media, I would share the episode, and then later in the week, I would do like, here's what we're watching this weekend, and then here's a poll, or what are your thoughts on whatever. I didn't do enough varied stuff. It did not get the engagement that it needed to. It was okay. If I had used a method like what I'm talking about, it would have been a lot better. And better doesn't mean it's going to turn the faucet on. It means it's going to build from there. And as a one-man band, 6 shows, it's a lot to create that. I'm going to have to be really strategic about how I do it. But 1 or 2 or 3 shows, you can do this. It would take you Saturday morning, Sunday morning. Sunday morning. Let's go with Sunday morning because most people are sitting around. Saturday morning, they're watching this. So entertaining. Uh, they're trying to figure out what movie posters I have behind me. That's why I'm entertaining. Sunday morning, you get up, you take your list of 10 things, you take your 1 piece of content, and you go, what do I want to make out of this? And I'm telling you, in the beginning, it's going to take a couple hours. After you've gotten going, you're going to be rocking it. I have for Four Horsemen. It took us a couple of months of working on it, but we ended up coming with a list and a schedule where every day, we have 6 different pieces of content. And what I'm doing is I'm taking those and I'm working on those. Well, not now. Actually, I've got somebody else who's doing it. Thank goodness. But I was taking it and saying, okay, this is a piece of content. I know I need this month. I need 20 of these, and I would sit down and just rattle off 20. Then I'd take the next thing and rattle off 20 or 5 or whatever it is I needed, and it would take me to do that much content for a whole month about 3 hours. In the beginning, it would be 3 hours just to get one of the categories. Now, no problem. So getting all the stuff done for Southgate Media Group, I figure it's going to take me 2 to 3 hours on a Sunday morning, and I'll have engaging content, and I'll have 10 things, and it'll be awesome. Yeah, and editing can take a while too. Uh, Now we're talking podcasting. But you know me, Jamie, I got it down to, I was at one point doing 36 episodes in a week of editing, plus recording probably 10 different shows and everything else. You can get streamlined on the editing. You can get that one down too. Now, you do a little bit more production on yours. It does take a little bit of time. And if that's not your full time gig, it's a little tough. But you want to carve out that time for your social media, because look at this. Look at it this way. And this is everyone. Everyone. You are creating something and you're trying to put it out there and you're trying to do something. What's your goal? Is it to make money? Is it to get listeners? Is it to build brand awareness? What is the thing? But you did the effort to make the thing and you took the time to edit it and put it together. Why would you put it out once in one flavor and let it die? Carve out 2 hours and say, all I'm going to do is work on this part of it to make content that's going to attract attention and get people into it. Okay, so making 10 out of 1. I'll remove that, and we'll talk about these. Stop screen, present screen. Okay, there we go. You don't need my ad. Okay, so here's an example of 10 pieces of content. In fact, I was actually thinking about this show because I posted one on the New Media Lab YouTube channel. It doesn't automatically push. I haven't got it working quite right yet. It will, but it's not quite working right for me. I don't know what's up, but it does push to the Southgate Media Group one. So I took the Southgate Media Group one and took the downloaded file, put it on New Media Lab. And then I looked at this and I said, what are things I can start doing with this? First post, full episode, full blog. I did blog yesterday, posted the blog. Second one, quote, make a meme. You could do it where it's just a blank background. You could do it with a picture, something that ties to it. Make it make sense. So in this case, I would probably use, because it's from pour over, I would probably use some kind of coffee thing in the back, and I would have a meme that would say something like, have your goal in mind. I say that all the time. Third one, short audiogram or audio clip with episode artwork. From a blog standpoint, use like when you do it in Substack, you get these memes that have the title, it has a clip out of it. It's the same kind of thing. It's a little bite-sized piece out of what you've done. For a podcast, you can go to, it's going out of my mind, so we won't worry about it, but you can make an audiogram, little audio clip with episode artwork, which you should be creating for everything you do. Third one, short reel featuring video from the episode. So in this case, I have video. I have me talking to you guys. I make a 30-second clip of me talking, pull something out. It's almost like a clip one, but a quote one, but it's video. You can use it as a reel. Put it on Instagram, put it on Facebook, put it on LinkedIn, put it wherever, right? Another one, carousel of images of topics discussed on your episode. Now, this could be a little bit funkier. This could be one of those things like, here, we're talking about, we talked about for-profit. We're talking about this blog post. We're going to talk about LinkedIn in a second, Jamie. I see that. I could make a carousel that just has those images, and it would, at the front, it would say topics from this episode. What do they mean together? And it would be bump, 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 and it's a carousel you can flip through. And then at the end is some kind of call to action. Check out the episode on YouTube at blank, or click here to check out the episode. In case you missed it, now this is one specifically if you are doing a blog or a video or a podcast. Later in the week, do your full episode, but label it with a hashtag ICYMI in case you missed it. So it's later in the week. Hey, in case you missed it, we put out a new episode. Here it is. But what I would do is I would do the audio one earlier and do the video one later. That way, you're giving some variety. Okay. Seventh, stagnant image related to an episode topic with a short segment of dialogue scrolling across it. So instead of doing your reel, you're doing a stagnant version of that. We talked about for profit. I would probably take the for profit poster and then have words streaming across it from something I said in the episode, right? An ad for the episode. Why not make an ad? Why not make a straight up ad or make a trailer for the episode and put that out? Here's an example. It'd be me. Okay. Now I take a selfie, so it's a little different look, and I say, check out our latest episode. It's all about how you can take 10 or one piece of content, make it into 10, get engagement, get people to click on your thing, get listeners, and build some raving fans. Click the link below and listen now. That's an ad. Number 9, poll or a question. These are the best because they get engagement. You ask a question, how do you read my 10 pieces of content. What is one that's missing? You put the 10 piece of content. Which one is your favorite one to do? People click on the poll. It causes engagement. And then a behind the scenes clip recorded after the episode that's not in the episode. You're giving something different. So after I finish this episode, maybe I sit here and I turn my phone on myself and do a selfie and be like, whew, that was some episode. Man, I had some good questions. Jamie, Chinto, thanks for being here. I loved it. Done. Right? With a little logo and a link to the episode. Now, you don't have to use any one of those. The point is, I brainstormed 10 different pieces of content. They all come off of one thing, and they're all using elements of this one show. How can you do that with your own thing? Even if it's just an ad, what are different things you can do with that ad to create something a little more interesting, to create some engagement? Okay, because the ad is a call to action in and of itself. It should be. But how do you get somebody to interact with you around the subject of that ad or using that ad? It's a little trickier when you're just doing an ad. But if you're making a blog post or something, yeah, there's more you can do. Okay, Jamie again. Is LinkedIn a good tool for posting podcasts or just contacts? I don't have an answer. The answer I will give you is I used to post the episodes from Southgate Media Group on LinkedIn, and I don't know if we got a lot of traffic from it, but I did feel like it was a good thing. In SMG 2.0, we're going to continue that, but I'm going to be adding in extra content that is about podcasting, so that if a podcaster goes there, the TARDIS was calling me. If the podcaster goes there, yeah, they'll see these shows, but they'll also get information. It's building our brand. It's making it worthwhile. So, Jamie, you have Radio Free Endor. Post your episodes. Do it. You can do it through your own. I prefer to do it through the company one. So, make one for Radio Free Endor. Okay. Or make one for Jamie Burns Podcasts and put your podcasts on there. Okay. Or you can put it through your own, depending on what you want to do with your business profile. And then do something about the business part of it. Make posts occasionally or share other people's things. You could literally take my Substack when I write a Substack about podcasting or about marketing and share it on yours and say, got some great ideas here. That's it. So you've got your episodes, but you're also providing this other value. And you didn't even have to do anything except share it. It's one of the things I love about Substack. I can write, I shared one so far. And it was reciprocity because they shared my stuff. And I'm like, oh, I haven't done anything with it because I haven't reached out to all these people that I know in that space. Now that I've got my feet under me again, I didn't want to put things out and have it die on the vine, right? Not dying on the vine. Now I can reach out and say, here's my regular Substack. Let's partner. I'll share your thing, you share mine. So I shared one. It was really good. It was about trends in podcasting for 2023. That's how long ago I shared it. I share it. It goes out to all of my followers. I didn't have to create content other than a sentence saying, I love this article. I think it's really great. I think I'm going to make my own version of it, which I did. Very effective. Them, Ariel and Lauren, who wrote that article, had me on a show. They shared my content. I shared theirs. Then they have a couple other people that share, and they reached out to him and said, hey, did you guys read his thing? And I got contacted from that. I love that. And I put it on LinkedIn, right? Okay. So is it good for podcast posting? Yes. Is it the only platform I would use? Absolutely not. I just took a screen grab of this info. Or, Jamie, you can subscribe to me on Substack. Look at this. Oh, it was going to be so slick 1 second ago. And I just can't seem to get my share screen thing down fast enough. Here we go. You can subscribe to my newsletters, either Pour Over Marketing and or Mic Drop. Pour Over Marketing, that article is there, and there's a lot more to the article, but then it's got the 10 examples, and those are literally just examples. I would love to hear other ideas of things you could make, 10 pieces of content you could make out of that. I think that'd be awesome. While we're at it, I should share some other things. There's the YouTube channel. Now, this is New Media Lab Pod. That is a YouTube channel. There's also the Southgate Media Group YouTube channel. Southgate Media Group gets everything. In fact, it still gets stuff from podcasts from the original Southgate Media Group. I opened the gates and said, hey, get more listens. Share it through our YouTube channel. So there is new content. There is tons of new content going in there that is not officially the new Southgate Media Group. That's okay, man. It's great. I'm watching the listens go up. One of the episodes. Now we used to only average a couple of listens an episode. If we hit 10, it was like, woo, celebrate. And I was in there last night and I was looking. I was like, wow, this one just hit 59 listens. Here's one that was 100. I'm like, we're starting to gain some steam on here. So it's cool. Might as well say it. After this episode, I am doing another podcast, another live show. So if you want to check it out, I know Chinto was on it last time or joined me on Capes and Lunatics, which is another network that launched out of our network. I have a show. It's called The Third Best Southgate. Frankly, I'm lucky there's only 2 others in the house because I think I would fall even further. But Third Best Southgate is streaming on not only the Third Best Southgate Facebook page, but on the Capes and Lunatics Podcast Network Facebook page. So join me there. It's live. There we're talking more nerdy stuff, although they do like to get into marketing stuff with me over there. It's funny, we did one all about podcasting because they had all these marketing questions, and I was like, hey, I'll just flow with it. Here's the idea of the show, which is different. We did the very first episode, and they had asked me to do this. They really wanted me to do it. And when we started doing it, it turned out that they were really just having me do my show This Week in Geek without my co-hosts. Like, they get to be the co-hosts. And I'm like, well, I mean, I love these guys. They're fun to talk to about that stuff. But I already do that show. So by the second week, I told him, I said, I'm burning it to the ground. I've got another idea because I already do that. And what I came up with is I haven't found it anywhere else. I'm the guest. So when I bring a guest on, they ask me questions rather than me ask them questions. So if I have a celebrity, I was talking to a friend of mine who's a celebrity who wants to come on. And I said, great. You don't even have to get it approved with your agents or anything. There's nothing involved because I'm not going to ask you anything. You know, like there's no ground we're going to tread on that's going to be risky. You're just there to ask me questions. And they love it because they love to ramp me up and get me talking about stuff, especially nerd stuff. So join me immediately following this over on Capes and Lunatics for the third best Southgate. Chat it up with me. Ask me nerdy questions. Ask me business questions. You can literally ask me anything. If I'm not going to answer it, I'm going to just tell you point blank. But so far, there hasn't been a question I wouldn't answer. Cool info, but Substack is new to me. Substack is it's a blog / newsletter site. It's fantastic. Let me explain it real quickly, not just to you, Jamie, but to anybody listening. I subscribed to a bunch of newsletters, and I was finding at the bottom it would say Substack. And what attracted me was I was getting these newsletters that were really a blog post. It was really just a short thing, but they were good. And then it would say at the bottom, like, okay, I talk about this guy all the time. Jeff Tweedy from Wilco. That's their movie, or one of their movies, but that was the one that was theatrically released. Jeff Tweedy has one called Starship Casual. So I subscribe to it. It's really cool. He just kind of talks about like, oh, today I did this and I was, old man rock star. I was mowing the lawn and my hip hurt. Okay. Not always that bad, but sometimes. Or he'll talk about a gig or like, oh man, I got to meet so and so and blah, blah, blah. And then it says if you subscribe to his Substack, the paid tier, so they have paid tiers, $5 a month. He does covers and original music all the time. It's him with a guitar doing a little acoustic thing. Sometimes he'll have his kids play with him. Sometimes he'll have his band and they'll just kind of do a song. And his covers are so good, but they are going to not be released other than as these unedited little video clips. And they're so good. And he picks really cool music. What I love is I don't have to pay $5 to get his stuff. But if I do, I get a tremendous amount of value. So I was like, hey, I should start a Substack. I've tried this with Patreon. I've tried it all these different ways. Substack, it's free. I set it up, and that's exactly what I'm doing. I've got 2 Substacks going right now. And at some point, I'm going to turn on, when I get enough followers, which they're gaining every week, I am going to turn on a paid version that maybe is a show like this, but only for my Substack. I don't know what it's going to be. Maybe it's going to be a private Q&A session with anybody that subscribes to me there. Maybe it's going to be me watching a movie and trash talking it. I don't know. I don't trash talk movies. I love movies. Here's what I love, really, really love about it, though, is Substack is almost like a newsletter social media. So first of all, I write pour over, and I have subscribers on Substack that it goes directly to. But then I also tied it to my MailChimp account, the Southgate Media Group one, so it immediately goes out to like 2,000 people every time I write one, right? So it's a newsletter. And I can format it as a newsletter or just as a blog. Those are 2 different things, right? And what I might do is actually make the Substack the newsletter part of it, and then the blog is the extended version that you have to pay for at some point. Like probably my chapters of my book are going to go in there that you can't read unless you pay. Hey, Sarah, I'm so happy you're here. It's been a couple of weeks. I think you are late. There's only 14 minutes left to this episode, but good news, Sarah. See why I'm saying this? Good news, Sarah. I'm doing another show immediately following this, which is called Third Best Southgate. You'll find it on the Capes and Lunatics Facebook page or on the Third Best Southgate Facebook page. You totally want to watch that. It's casual, it's nerdy, it's fun, lots of comments. People go on there just to ask me questions. Not like businessy questions, but like, what did you think of The Flash? Oh, let me tell you what I thought of The Flash. What did you think of this coffee? Oh, let me tell you what I thought of this coffee. It's really fun. Really fun. Now on Substack and subscribed. Well done, Jamie. Well done. So, there's not just the I can do the paid thing. It can push to MailChimp. It can push to just to the subscribers there. But the thing I really love is the social media aspect of it. As you subscribe to other people, it's easy to share their Substacks, what they've done. So you read one that you really like, you can share it. And you can say, just share it to my subscribers on Substack or send it out in my email. So let's say Jamie from who was in the network originally, and then Capes and Lunatics, who was in the network originally, and then my new shows each have Substacks. Okay. My new shows are all going to have them, by the way. Instead of me having to write a whole thing each week from each of them, I read their Substack. I can share it through MailChimp to the Southgate Media Group followers. So now people are getting in their inbox, hey, Radio Free Endor has a new Substack that's really cool. Check it out. Now, would I want to do that every week and inundate them with 100 newsletters? No. But every week, maybe 2. I don't think people would get pissed off at that. I think they'd think this is really cool. I love that it's got that social media aspect to it. I've had my stuff shared, which I love. It's so cool. And I've had people subscribe to me because it got shared and they're like, oh, they like Rob. I'm going to check Rob out. You can treat it where you're almost like TikTok. You know how there's book talk and sci-fi talk or talk and podcast talk. You can treat it that way too and go like, I am only going to share straight down the middle podcast marketing blogs. Or you can say, my audience is going to be interested in this and this and this. I'm going to share all these different things, but I'm going to give personal comments on them and make sure you're not oversharing. But even one here and there, boy, somebody's sharing. Any of you share my last Substack once, and I am so grateful. If you don't share it the next week or the next week or the next week, I don't care. You told your audience you liked me. And a year from now, you do it again. That is a newsletter social relationship. I love it. Okay, let's go back to this. Bam! Capes and Lunatics. That's where I'm going to be. We'll go with that one. Third Best Southgate. All right. And then, as long as we're doing these things, Southgate Media Group. I brought it up. I like to say this every week. I should put the links on here, but you can see we're everywhere. If you're there, we're there. Some of these are not fully kicked on. The ones I'm most excited about, we are about to do a Twitch thing that is so freaking cool that is also going to play on YouTube. I'm also excited to bring back our Pinterest. I love it. Those of you that don't understand why, should learn about Pinterest. Pinterest is essentially a search engine now, and Google pulls from it. So it's almost like free SEO for your images and for your content. So if I start putting my blog posts on Pinterest in one board that's just Rob Substack, any of our shows that have a Substack or have a newsletter, we can make a board for that newsletter and it becomes highly searchable. Love it. Okay. Sarah with a lot of words. I got to read these. So, okay, what if an author has something big going on in their personal life and they'd like to share that journey with their readers, but are not sure it would be too far off subject that it isn't that it shouldn't really be shared? Is that a no-no? That is a great question, Sarah. I'm going to give the vaguest of vague answers here. Uh, maybe. Okay, let me break it down. That was as vague as I could get it. Um, I think it depends on you and the relationship you have with your followers. If all your content is strictly about writing and your books and your characters, then no, don't jump into that pool. Don't overshare. If part of your persona is brand you and every fourth post you do is me with my kid, me, like, hey, I had surgery this week. I mentioned Jeff Tweedy. So his stuff is always about music and bands and all that. Then he had hip surgery recently, and he had pictures of him from the hospital. And he's like, oh man, I turned into the old man rock musician and getting this surgery. And you know what? It was personal. His blog, even though it's about music, it's very personal. It worked. If it was sterile and it was like, this is promotion for, like, his goal is, this is promotion for Wilco. I'm always going to be putting very strict, music related brand building, like what I would put on LinkedIn, then no, Sarah, don't. But if you bring you into that mix, then yes. Or have a different outlet where you do that. So for me, for Southgate Media Group, I keep it pretty much Southgate Media Group. Here are the podcasts, here's podcasting information, here's marketing information. And then I have my own that I do tell subscribers, hey, if you want to follow me at Rob Southgate. And then from at Rob Southgate or at our Southgate, I share some of that same stuff, but I share the more personal stuff as well. For instance, a sologamous, am I saying that right? Sologamous wedding, sologamous. It's very niche and a newer concept in general, and I'm curious if I should share my journey to the altar. Well, you did share it, didn't you? The other day? Didn't I read that? And did I think it was great? Yeah, that content totally worked for what you were doing. Where the line is what you're comfortable with, what you want people to know. Because here's another thing that you have to keep in mind with that kind of thing. Once you say, let's go with something very different. I love broccoli. And you show a picture of you with a ton of broccoli and you're like, I could eat this every day. It's my favorite. Here's what happens. In the minds of the people that have read this, that's the first thing they think about. So if you don't want them to make that part of the avatar that they think of every time they think of you, don't put it out there. Does that make sense? Does that make sense to you? Curate what you're going to say, but curate where you say it too. For me, I loved seeing that when you posted that. I did. I haven't announced it on Instagram because that's my main readership network, and I'm just worried it will throw people off too much. I agree with that too for your Instagram, because that is not really where you do that. Where you did it, I believe, was on Facebook, and you're more personal on that Facebook one. I know more about you on Facebook. Instagram is more professional. Keep those separate, unless now you're talking a wedding, this particular type of wedding. So I follow Bob Mould, right? I love Bob Mould, another musician, one of my punk guys, right? And Bob Mould came out as gay a long time ago. Okay. Very brave of him, because here he's this punk icon and he was like, I might lose people. Well, he didn't lose anybody, to my knowledge. Nobody I know stopped. We're all like, great, he's gay. His music's amazing. A year ago, and his stuff is always about music and his tours. And then a year ago, he got married and he shared a picture of him and his husband. And the comments were beautiful. And then, just recently, they went on a trip for their anniversary. The whole year, he's been having a hell of a year. Concert pictures, him on all these festivals. It's all promotional. And then he shared one picture of him and his husband saying, "It's been a year. It's been amazing." Oh my God, the love and kindness from his fans was great. Now, if he made that his personality and put it out there all the time, it doesn't belong on his promotional stuff. But a once in a while thing like that, absolutely. So you have to think to yourself, what do I want people to think of? How do I want them to respond to it? Yeah, Sarah, you said awe. Bob Mould kicks so much ass. Molly and I got to go see him recently at the Old Town School of Folk Music. He plugged in and uh, burned our ears out. He was so great. It was so loud and so fun. And like, I'm looking at this guy who's older than me, and he is rocking the house so hard. It was, oh, I mean, he was playing Husker Du stuff from the 80s, and he was playing it like it was written today. It was, oh, it's amazing. Okay. Uh, and I'm glad what I said makes sense. And Serena, welcome. And I'm glad you said very helpful. Uh, there we go. I'll have to Google how to say it, but Jamie said he Googled it, and congratulations, because there's a lot of love out there, right? Most people are going to just congratulate you. It's how you do it in your account. What you want people to think of, what you want them, if you want them to think about your books, maybe don't put it or do what Bob does, which is it's very subtle in there. But man, it made me feel like I know him even more. Perfect and thank you. Yes, congratulations, Sarah. Congratulations. Okay, two very quick bits of business because I got to switch over to that other show. If you need a website, I am doing some landing pages for people. I'm inexpensive, but I am looking for side streams of income because this ain't paying nothing. Neither are my English lessons, obviously. So if you need a website, you want to do a landing page of some site, of some sort, reach out to me. I put Southgate Small Business down there because that's one of my businesses, but you guys know where I am. Just reach out to me. I would be happy to help you out with that. And where is it? There's my email, rob@smgpods, or there's a million other ones. And then this one makes me feel so good to say, and I'm going to say it every week. This was brought to you by Southgate Media Group. This is the first of the brand new products from Southgate Media Group. It is officially part of the network, and I'm officially growing it the way we're going to grow the other things. So there you go. All right. I am off to the Capes and Lunatics Facebook page. Join me over there. It's live, it's nerdy, it's fun, and it's the third best Southgate. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm going to get more coffee in me, so get ready. Thank you guys for coming. I'll be back next week. If you need anything from me, you have questions, reach out to me. If you want to set up a free consultation, let me know, and I will send you, or a free session, I will send you a link. And I swear to God, Serena, we're going to figure out a way to get together. So just keep hanging in there with me. Thanks, guys.